All right, I won't introduce myself again, actually. Initially, the moderator was to be Laurence Lagriffoul from Novaspace. She very unfortunately could not make it, so obviously I'll be a decent backup to her to moderate this second roundtable of the morning. So somehow there will be a bit of continuity, obviously, from the first roundtable, but also from a different angle and getting deeper into what that ecosystem of multi-orbit, GEO, MEO, LEO, I may even introduce apps or some other means to deliver connectivity, how they can possibly work together to deliver new capabilities to the end users. So thanks again to APSCC for this second session. Delighted to be here and certainly delighted to welcome to the stage with me this morning. So Neha Idnani, Regional Vice President, Asia Pacific for Eutelsat, Chyong Lim, CEO of MEASAT, Kevin Seow, Vice President Corporate Development for SES, and Carlin, Charteris, Vice President Global Networks and Technology for Viasat. So maybe I do my coming back to the start. So we'll invite you to make a short intro about your respective organization and some of the recent milestones, possibly. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us here and having me represent Eutelsat. Short intro. I think a lot of us in this group would know, given I think we do business or deal or partner with a lot of the people sitting here in this room. Eutelsat, as most of you would know, is the only GEO plus LEO constellation and service provider today globally, and one of the two only LEO service providers which is commercially live and active as we speak. Even this region of Taiwan today has the LEO services reaching from our network to power the networks here. One key piece of our model, of course, which sort of has been our biggest strength is our partnership model. As we started these operations, we were very sure that we want to build a constellation that serves the globe, but we want to localize and regionalize our constellation. So I think on this stage, two of the three people are who we partner with. So essentially built on a partnership model and built for B2B, B2G use case to complement the other forms of connectivity that already exist. So that's us. To summarize, I think as most of you know, a lot of our markets have gone live in the APAC region. As I mentioned, we're already active in a majority of the key markets, and Taiwan's one of the regions that we serve too.
Thanks a lot, Neha. Turning to you, Yao, for your introductory remarks.
Hello. Yeah, good morning. My name is Yao. I'm from MEASAT. MEASAT is a regional operator based in Malaysia. And historically itself, just like many other satellite operator, we are, strong in the video market. And in fact, as of today itself, we still have a very strong video business in the region. And that provides us a very strong and stable revenue stream. And building on that itself, we started to move into the managed bandwidth services. And relatively itself, we have built a relatively strong and a successful connectivity business in Malaysia. And moving forward itself, we start to look at what else that we can do. Just like Neha mentioned, we do believe that partnership is key. Looking at the resources available, and started off with some simple reselling model, and we started to deepen the relationship with other partner. For example, we also start to building the gateway, hosting the gateway in Malaysia, and start to look at different offering product. Which is makes sense to the market itself. And apart from the traditional connectivity and the video business, we have also started to move into the adjacent industry. For example, the satellite-based IoT, EO business, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Kevin, Precious.
Hi, good morning, fellow delegates and fellow panelists here. Thank you very much for having us here today. So my name is Kevin Seow. I'm the head of corporate development at SES. So basically what we do is we're responsible for long-term partnership with other national operators, strategic alliances, including aspiring national operators. In addition to this sort of partnership that we work on, we are also responsible for looking at how we can optimize or strategize the use of our orbital resource and assets. In terms of achievements of the company, as you all may have known, we've completed the acquisition of Eutelsat just recently, about 3 months ago. And that makes us, I would say, a truly global, a truly multi-orbit satellite operator with 120 satellites, so 90 in geostationary, 30 in MEO, and strategic access to LEO capacity with our partners. So in terms of other achievements, I will focus in Taiwan. So basically, we have a partnership with Chunghwa Telecom, giving them access to high throughput, low latency capacity on our MEO satellites. Part of that partnership also includes building a gateway in-country in Taiwan. The other collaboration that we have is with E3, the Industrial Technology Research Institute in Taiwan, where we're collaborating in building a multi-orbit terminal that can span from LEO to GEO. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Turning to Carlin for Viasat.
Good morning. Carlin, Charteris, Senior Vice President, Viasat APAC region. And I'm really glad here to talk to everybody about multi-orbit. I think it's an exciting area. I mean, historically, we would be talking about LEOs versus GEOs. Now we're embracing what multi-orbit really is about. And to me, I think it's more that we should be discussing the ecosystem of connectivity. Because I think that's what it's really about. Viasat has been operating for 40 years in telecommunications and satellite, and they generally innovate, and they enjoy the culture of innovation. And what we're seeing over the last several years is converging technology, and whether that's technology in space and cellular, terrestrial networks, space and space, it's got an ecosystem that we're going to be seeing evolve. I think that's going to be really important. And what we're seeing with Viasat over the last year is several announcements. Most will know that we acquired MEASAT, and we've been integrating that over several years. And that's been an excellent acquisition where we've now truly got a multi-band, multi-orbit strategy in place. We recently announced Nexus Wave, which is a bonded solution for multi-orbit. It was adopted in the regions and for maritime services. It's been performing excellent, great EPV scores associated with that. And recently in April, we announced Amara, which is our aviation product, which is a multi-network, multi-orbit strategy, not only then embracing phase array technology with active-active multi-orbit implementation. I think we're seeing that evolution over time, the adoption of that being very successful. Moving forwards, we then talk about the satellite to mobile and the direct-to-device capabilities. We announced in September this year a partnership with Space42 to produce a LEO direct-to-device constellation globally. And one of those attributes, which I think is important, we touched on earlier today, is sovereignty. And so with every one of the solutions we talk about, sovereignty is being important. And so how do you implement a solution or a product that customers really can adopt, embrace, that delivers higher throughput, security, sovereignty overall, in an environment where LEOs naturally don't have that connotation to have sovereign capabilities. So I think that's something that's going to touch on for the rest of this conference that I heard already today. In the case of the Space 42 Viasat venture, sovereignty is one of the fundamental parts of how we're implementing that service, partnering with countries and partnering with telcos to implement that service globally.
Thanks a lot for those introductory remarks. So maybe coming back almost to the very definition or title of the session, because multi-orbit has been used a lot in the last few years, more or less everywhere in the press and so forth. So what does it mean for you today? Is it just somehow a larger catalog of options that are available from a pure one asset, one network thing to integrated solution? Is it completely service ready for all the verticals, or is it very much in the works? I think you mentioned about a couple of the verticals, at least, Carlin, in your comments. So what your thoughts on what that multi-orbit capability means today from your standpoint or maturity in that journey? So maybe turning back to you, Neha, and then go with all the speakers.
Absolutely. I think very, very pertinent topic. In fact, I'd go beyond multi-orbit world we're living in it. It's actually, in fact, a connected world and looking for more and more connectivity, and we're living in it. At the end of the day, I think what the customers care about is connectivity, resilience, all sorts of connectivity. They don't really even go behind the scenes on whether it's terrestrial, whether it's LEO, MEO, GEO. All these forms of connectivity are enabling more and more resilience. And in some extent, I think Terry very well touched in the opening session, sovereignty, etc. Sovereignty is becoming a key theme as well. So absolutely, as just stepping back, I think a lot of consolidation has been spoken of by the fellow panelists, even back in the day when the Eutelsat OneWeb merger happened, was the whole idea of combining the capabilities of GEO and LEO. Today, as our services rolled out, a lot of our partners build the connectivity solution integrating a lot of technologies, be it terrestrial with satellite or different forms of satellite. So depending on really the use, when you need the low latency capability, LEO is relevant, but there are a lot of use cases still very well served with GEO and MEO for that matter. In terms of really, I think you did touch on a good topic, how are we making it more and more seamless? In some of our applications, for example, Aero, we do have integrated terminals, which are GEO and LEO capable. Even on the fixed and mobility deployments, we do have terminals which combine LEO and LT capability. So at the end of the day, yes, I mean, all of these are connectivity mediums in the connectivity toolkits of our partners. It's how best to integrate for whatever use case the technology is best suited for.
Personally, I see that this so-called multi-orbit, it's just a term, right? It's more so that, from the GEO operator point of view, which we, as a GEO operator, we're trying to find ourselves relevant in this whole, NGO's world. You hardly see that, the LEO operator talk about the multi-orbit kind of a word. So from a practical point of view, what we see is that, whenever customer need it, then we will provide those solutions. Again, multi-orbit is not like a magical word apply for all. For example, from the video business itself, video application, multi-orbit is probably less relevant. And even from the connectivity perspective, if you look at, for the rural connectivity, multi-orbit comes with a cost. And especially in the rural connectivity, what you're looking at is how you can provide the most affordable, connectivity to the rural or to the villager itself. So we have to really be practical, and rather than just be saying that just like everyone, because of the multi-orbit, we want to be in that world as well. As I said, MEASAT, we take a very practical approach in this, whereby rather than we build on our own constellation, we work with different partner, whether it's from the west or from the east. We are pretty open with it, and so long that it makes sense to the market. And from there itself, we will probably look at, as a next step, once we build the ecosystem itself, whereby, we as a local service provider, we know the whole ecosystem. We can bridge, the global or international player with the local market itself. That's where, our strength is. We will continue to focus on that. And we believe that, come to a point, yes, we will start to look at the LEO. But again, this has come to a very specific targeted area. For example, I think our colleague here is talking about the sovereign capacity, sovereign connectivity. That what we see is there's a natural and the next step for us.
Thank you. Kevin.
Hi. So in SES, as I mentioned, I mean, multi-orbit is a very strategic component of our growth. And in fact, I think Yao mentioned this as well, where we talked about, what our customers need, and I think that was Neha, sorry, not Yao, Neha, talking about how we can meet our customers' requirement, right? So I would say multi-orbit is part of our DNA today. But I would also add that, multi-orbit is not a requirement for success for everyone. But for SES, it is part of who we are and how we want to drive the company forward. So it's an important role that we see ourselves playing in that capacity. So what we think about multi-orbit is that, it's not just about the sky. So multi-orbit is also about what the customer wants, as Neha pointed out. The aim here is, of course, to match the right approach with the right orbit through services and technological innovation. Pacome, you mentioned about alternate technologies in HAPS, Earth observation, D2D. So clearly these are areas that we in SES will continue to explore and develop. Thank you.
Yeah, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I see multi-orbit kind of translating into a transparent ecosystem of connectivity, right? So I don't believe multi-orbit should be focused on MEO versus GEO versus LEO, and in fact HEO. It's around the connectivity platform and how we adapt to that for the customer's use case. If we look back a decade or two ago, we looked at cellular networks and how they were integrating with fixed services, Wi-Fi, and so we saw transparency across those platforms where you can roam across these different network infrastructures, and the customer didn't care which service they were on. They didn't care whether they were on wireless or Wi-Fi or cellular networks. They really wanted to make sure that the applications were working when they wanted it, where they wanted it, and to the quality level that they expected. And so when you translate that in the industry that we are today, it's really about a high-performing service that is reliable and now in this environment secure, delivering that anywhere, anytime, to anyone. And I think that's, if we put that forefront in our mind and then marry that up with the cost effectiveness of delivering that service, is what we touched on earlier today in the earlier forum. So how do you do that most effectively? And so multi-orbit is an attribute of how we achieve that, right? So for example, in about 72 hours, we're launching Viasat 3. It's a terabit class satellite that's going flight 2. And that satellite is an incredibly flexible satellite that can deliver incredible speeds and capabilities within its coverage area from a geostationary position. And we partner with LEO providers. Telesat Lightspeed is one of the contracts we signed up earlier to deliver the best of what we can deliver and the best what they can deliver. And that partnership builds the ecosystem. And to me, I think that's the direction we want to head.
Thank you. And maybe starting that as I believe it's perceived as a premium clients looking at that sovereignty or even security to defense. Certainly has been even a big topic this year, no question about it. So when we think of it, defense on the one side, they are to leverage commercial networks. At the same time, they may also want to use specific frequency bands, X-band, military K, some of the sovereign assets. Well, in their ideal world, you would have a small terminal, very discrete, that can connect to everything, any orbit, any frequency, etc. And by the way, affordable if you can make it. So that's not always possible to have it under the Christmas tree. But that being said, obviously there is some more integration solution development by the operators. So to work with government to make some of those solutions happen, to maybe able to deal with both commercial or government frequencies, or work with user terminal partners to make that happen. So how do you see that kind of new demand patterns possibly from defense, including here in Asia, but obviously with some dynamics in the rest of the world? And what's the role of the operator in that multi-orbit, bringing together maybe terminal partners, bringing some education maybe, because level of maturity in use of space for defense differs very much from country to country still today. So what's your view at that sovereignty demand for the multi-orbit offerings? So how to accelerate adoption by the government partners or to find the right solution? So interesting to see your perspective. I know Eutelsat has announced some deals, including obviously with French government, but also this year. So how as well to work with government, bringing the right solutions?
Very good and fair point. I think always the ease of adoption and integration is key to get more traction in these kind of cases. So as I alluded to, in some of our segments, we already have integrated terminal, commercial, etc. offerings, which, as I mentioned, Aero has been one of those areas where integrating multi-orbit was a key requirement, particularly for wide body. So we do have terminal offerings that are a single terminal, which is able to handle multi-orbit. We also have terminals for mobility deployments, both land mobility and maritime, which again combine LEO and LTE. But to your point, role of the operator, absolutely. I think we as operators need to keep doing more. Like I mentioned, few use cases we do have integrated terminals. Few use cases we still need to develop more. However, the other role that we see a lot of our partners though play. I mean, today there are a lot of solutions today in the world. SD-WAN, intelligent SD-WAN. We do have partners coming up with more solutions made in-house using better technology, AI, etc. Today, we have an Australian partner who's come up with combining LEO, GEO, LEO to be even more effective and efficient. So to your point, it's a combined role, and we see the entire ecosystem working on ubiquitous, resilient connectivity. So yes, we need to keep doing more. We will keep doing more. But I also see a lot of our partner ecosystem investing and developing that. We do have a lot of our partners here, be it Use India, be it Chyong sitting in this audience. There's part of the integration role that we are doing. There's a lot of the integration that our partners in the country are doing, depending on the needs and the availability of the various connectivity ecosystem that is there for the country. Yeah.
Thank you. And so I know, including Malaysian government has been user typically of several frequency bands or for sovereignty requirements over the years. So they may look also at next generation capability, as many countries do. And again, mixing possibly that kind of government assets and commercial assets to kind of modernize connectivity capabilities somehow. So what's your view on that integration phase?
So we are, have been serving the Malaysian government for a long time. And in fact, we recently just issued an RFP for our next generation of satellite. And this is one of the areas that, we strongly believe that GEO still have a very key role to play, especially when it comes to the sovereign capacity, sovereign connectivity, and also take into consideration that the existing investment of the government or the defense have already on the ground segment, so it's kind of difficult for them to overnight to switch it over to other type of connectivity. But having to say that doesn't mean that we're going to just stop there. But as a immediate next step itself, we see that GEO is still have a very key role to play, and at the same time, and as you mentioned, that we need to get the government people to be comfortable with the LEO, especially in talking about the defense. Once you launch the LEO, it's like a global connectivity, and how to make it financially make sense, and also that whether we could share that kind of resources with other party, and that itself is a big discussion. Who is the trusted party that you're gonna have, and the other side of the world, and to make sure that the satellite or the asset that we launch, we can fully leverage on that.
Thank you, and given it, Carlin. So I know there's been embracement already of some military KA altogether, other frequencies, and some joint terminals are separate. So again, as well, your view on that sovereign demand.
Yeah, so I think in our view, frequencies play an important role, but I don't think it's a showstopper. What I think the government needs is a sense of reliancy and security. So there are certain frequencies, as you mentioned, that are more dedicated to military or government use, but I don't think it's a full requirement. I mean, we've been able to offer governments the use of our system with that has resiliency and secure communications in non-military bands. So that's a clear sign that frequency, while important, is not necessarily a requirement. Now, going back to multi-orbit, right? I mean, when we look at multi-orbit, it allows us to avoid or refrain from the single point of failure. I mean, you can switch over the customers. The government users will be able to reconnect their secure communication needs. I think apart from space, what is very important for sovereignty, you mentioned that, and seems to be a recurring theme from your previous session, is on the ground as well. I mean, I think there is this important sovereign gateway architecture, so where they can, the national governments can have full control, full access on the ground side to control the information flow. And SES fully supports this. So in SES, we've developed a sovereign, in fact, this is one of our key driver in our sovereign strategy. So in our service portfolio, we have developed a platform that allows us to have this secure communication, localized gateway architecture, and secure data handling for the government users. I mean, not just for the government users, but for our general users if they need them.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of aspects to this question. One is Viasat's DNA is in government and defence from a long time back, 40 years ago. And so security and being able to provide services to multiple governments globally has been really important to us. And so from a frequency and spectrum point of view, nearly all of our satellites include KA. Mil-band capabilities. Our acquisition through MEASAT was, again, another government entity providing services to all governments globally, or predominantly. And L-band services, S-band services were very important to those governments. We have one of the largest coordinated L-band, S-band assets available. And going forwards, I think this is the frequencies are important because they have different attributes. Ka band is more susceptible to rain fade or poor conditions. L band is not, hence why it's been used in maritime safety, aviation safety, etc. And so when you pair that together in a multi-orbit scenario, now you can get the best of both worlds. Now, Ka band, you require, if we talk about phased array, slightly larger antennas, more costly. That's being adopted, and there's a lot of focus on innovation around phased array technology. That will come down over time in terms of price point. L-band services or narrowband services have a much smaller antenna size. They can be provided connected vehicles or military devices or handsets, whatever it might be. And so when you combine those together, over time you're going to see the value proposition really starting to take hold. So I think for me, the two aspects, one is on the frequency domain. We've got to ensure that access to frequencies and coordination, especially around GEO and LEOs, is going to be available. There are submissions in the ITU that starts to really impact the spectrum access and power from GEO, and that's a really big danger. So we need to be attentive to that. And that's really about market dominance. I won't say who the players are, but they'll be obvious. So we've got to be cognizant of major impacts in that space.
Thank you, and I will need to turn to question received from the audience. So I have a quick one that is almost a yes or no. You already mentioned about aero mobility as a big topic. Obviously in the US, we may be at third, if not fourth generation for some airlines of connectivity. It has started to, as well, get modernized in other part of the world. So here in Asia, a number of airlines obviously offer IFC, some of them from, let's say, previous generation of solutions. Do you consider moving straight to maybe multi-orbit as the next, like, big to huge opportunity across the Asia-Pac region for IFC experience to the passengers? So how do you see that as a business opportunity, as it's kind of the first year for LEO multi-orbit experience in airlines somehow?
Absolutely. I think we are actively engaging not just globally, but with Asia Pacific Airlines. So being able to offer strong ubiquitous coverage and a good combination of capacity on IFC through multi-orbit is, of course, critical, particularly on the wide body use case. I mean, there will be a lot of our narrow body deployments which will be potentially LEO only. So we do have LEO only propositions, but yes, depending on the use case, both the multi-orbit and or LEO only strategy will both still be relevant, and this is the trend we are seeing with the APAC carriers as well.
Quite similar views on potential right now in Asia-Pac for modernizing AFC with multi-orbit. We keep it short, yeah. We have 20 seconds or more.
Yeah, Viasat Amara is a multi-orbit product which we announced in April this year. Our existing terminals support multi-orbit today. We've been very successful in that approach, and I just think it will be necessary in time as well, especially from a regulatory market access point of view. I think it's going to be key.
Sounds good. So I'll pick at least two questions. There will be one for you, Neha, apparently, at the top. But starting with 2 seconds, and maybe you may comment the one you prefer. So can multi-orbit basically be easy to deploy and cost-effective against, I assume, is a pure LEO or mega constellation offer? And second is a bit more focused on D2D and the opportunity or threat it may bring to the connectivity industry within a few years. So on those two questions being mixed together for the sake of time, any comment from any of you?
I'm happy to comment. Mega constellations are not easy to deploy. Having deployed one, let me tell you, which is why you still hear of a lot of mega constellations which have been talking about deploying for the last 7-8 years, and they haven't deployed. And even after you deploy, I think Carlin mentioned to the point on market access, all of those challenges are Herculean. Today, as I speak, like I said, we've launched in a lot of APAC markets, but we are still going through market access in a lot of our key markets like India, etc. So one is putting the satellites up, putting the ground stations up. You're talking multi-billion, $10 to $15 billion minimum investment, and a whole lot of time for market access, which is why I'll make a short point, I think coming back to the main theme of sovereignty. What a lot of our governments, in fact, we spoke of Aero lastly, but a lot of our business focus and our growth we are seeing is in the government space. Because there's more and more acute realization, putting up a mega constellation does not make technical and commercial sense for a single country. So operators like us who can add layer of security, I think there was talk about local infrastructure. So we actually allow secure encrypted data with local infrastructure which can be owned, managed, and operated by our partners locally, like a Chunghwa in Taiwan. So that is really the theme of the day, that don't invest $15 billion to put 500 to 5,000 satellites up there when the requirement is only a small landmass. Partner with mega constellations like us, which is where the technical and economic viability comes up. So, and coming to the main point under that, yes, multi-orbit is still technically and economically viable. There is a lot of GEO requirement, particularly from a sovereignty angle as well, that is important for security resilience, and combining it with LEO is still a very important theme, particularly for national capability.
Yeah, I'll take question number 2. So GEO operators claim to be complementary. I would say Viasat is definitely complementary with MNOs, and the reason why I can say that is our model is not direct to consumer, right? We're not direct to the customer. And D2D did SpaceX kill the game with their EcoStar spectrum. The acquisition for EcoStar, it's a portion of the spectrum available, and Viasat, legacy MEASAT, has some of the largest coordinated spectrum in L-band and S-band globally. So that's why I mentioned before about we already have that on GEO constellations globally. We do that today, and we're also augmenting that with a specific LEO constellation that is focused on direct-to-device IoT capabilities in those bands. And I think that will be hugely complementary. What I also mentioned, it's not about Viasat partnering with Space 42 to dominate. It's all about partnering with the local sovereign countries and MNOs to give them access to this capability in a more effective and cost-effective way, sovereign way.
I think that $17 billion transaction for spectrum may give credit to the potential that D2D may represent for the industry in the long run, which may be a good topic for the coffee break after. But before that, Kevin.
So I'll take the last question, which is the easiest. So the answer is yes, cheap multi-orbit terminal, but I think it's just not limited to the ground segment. As I mentioned, I mean, having scale on the space is also important. So it's a combination of both in order to provide a sustainable solution to our customers.
Thank you, Yao.
Yeah, so we continue to take a very practical approach whereby, we will focus on what we're good at. We continue to monetize our GEO capacity, but at the same time, we will continue to work with partner. And for those that, we welcome all those constellation player come and talk to us, whatever makes sense, then we will, deploy that into the market. Yeah.
Thank you. And Peter, I think we may be short of time, otherwise you may approach Neha during the coffee break to get the answer. Or you have an answer to the...
Sorry, I missed the first one. Quick one. Yes, absolutely. And continuing with my entire sovereign theme, we are having such active discussions. One, a lot of nation states are already using our services through our regional partners, be it Korea, through Hanwha. For the defense use, we've put up physical infrastructure of points of presence for the Korean requirements in Korea. We're having similar, yes, absolutely. We are under the various regional LEO projects, talking and engaging with a fair few sovereign states through our regional partners in APAC as well, to be their service provider of choice, not just today, in the future, what we call our IRIS² next-gen constellation as well.
Thank you, and I'm sure Reed Square can be a good discussion topic for the coffee break and likely for next year as well on this roundtable. Well, I think it's we are even maybe a bit over time, so now time to thank you very much for being with us this morning. Thanks a lot for your insights.
Thank you, Pacome, and thank you for the panelists for the amazing panel.